I'm Dan Morris, you're watching Post and Dan Bushcraft. Today, it's more lamp nerdery, yay! Usually today, being Wednesday, obviously in a few weeks this saying it's Wednesday won't really age well, because whenever you watch this video it is the day that it is. But usually on this day I would be out in the woods doing some bushcraft, or working on my spot. Unfortunately here in sunny Staffordshire, the weather is diabolical. It is very, very windy, and it's not safe to be in my particular woodland where I know there's dead trees hung up and, you know, bits of widowmakers around that could be knocked out of the tree. And you won't hear them on a day like today. The wind, everything, just all you hear is trees swinging and woods knocking into each other, so it's just not really safe, and it would be a miserable filming experience. So unfortunately we are back at the back of the garage looking at lamps. La-di-da. Now you may be thinking, whoa, Luke, he's got his whole lamp collection out. No, far from it. Actually, this is just the collection of one specific type of lamp, and that is my absolute favourite when it comes to actually using them for camping and bushcraft. There is nothing finer, and it is the Feuerhand 275 baby, and this is number one. This is where it all began. This is the one that was given to me by my grandmother when, I can't remember how old I was probably 8, 9 maybe at the most, and I always recognise this one because the glass lift handle is bent forwards, and I scratched a number 1 underneath the tank so that I know this was the first ever lamp that I owned, because if I hadn't done that you would not know. I didn't bend the handle, that's just how it is, but you wouldn't know, because once they've gone to a certain rustiness they do all look absolutely identical. Now, why is this my favourite lamp for using actually outside? Several reasons. The Feuerhand 275, they just got it right. They just got everything about this lamp spot on. Are there brighter ones out there? Yes, larger ones do tend to be brighter, bigger wicks, bigger flame, generally they're brighter. But as an all-rounder, in my opinion, the 275 cannot be beaten. And it comes down to all the important things that you're going to want when you're in the woods. These things put up with weather better. I have never had one of these get blown out while I'm carrying it around, ever. They are the best in the fuel seal world as well. If you tip them over, they don't leak particularly quickly. Now, they will leak if you leave them upside down, but it doesn't just run out like water from a cup. They're much tighter sealed. They have quite a small fuel tank. It's only about 1/4 of a litre, about 200 millilitres, maybe a tick or more if you haven't unless you've overfilled it. Obviously don't overfill them, we've said that on another video. But it isn't much fuel. You will still get 20-24 hours of constant light out of these off that small amount of fuel, depending on how high you have your wick turned up. So they will run for a very long time. I've already said they are incredibly windproof. They're also very compact, very small, easy to carry. They're built really quite tough as well. And there is also another feature about these that I prefer versus many other lamps, and that is that, if I'll show you on this one, it's currently not burning very well because it needs rewicking, the wick's stuck and all that. I will go through that in a bit. With these, one of the hardest jobs with these things is, say you do have to trim a lamp, particularly say you've put a new wick in and you need to trim your wick. It's a tricky job at the best of times. With these lamps, the shape that goes around the flame there, the cowl, that lovely hump with a cut in it, these lamps, it lifts up, and what that leaves you with is a perfectly flat top of the wick case there, where you can just get your little tiny craft scissors or something and knowingly get a nice flat line. Now, quite a lot of other types of lamp, that cowl stays down and the glass, it's all that lifts off it. The cowl is part of that, which means then you've got to wind the wick right up and guesstimate as to whether you've got a nice flat line or whether you've made a complete hoof of it and got it wrong. It also, by having the cowl lift with it, makes it a lot easier to light it, to get a match or just your lighter in there to light the damn thing. That simple little idea there, I've just blown that one out, that simple little thing there makes a huge difference when you're out there on a windy day fumbling around and all of that whatnot. Plus, it gives you the ability to light it and keep the flame very small from the start. If it's the other type, where you've got to lift the wick up out of the cowl to light it, what happens is you've got so much wick exposed, the whole thing starts to burn. Before you've got the glass shut and wick turned down, you've already started smoking up your lens, your globe. So, everything about these to me is just far superior. I've got lots of other lamps that are great for certain things. We'll go through them another day, but I've got some that are a tickle bigger and brighter than this. Very good, that suit the camp situation once your camp's set up. Not great to be carried around. Some of them don't like the weather as much, and there are different types anyway, but we'll go through that in a bit. So that is the 275 baby, which is about the best, most reliable that I have personally found. I have yet to find any lamp that compares to these at all in actual practical usage. And just a quick note on to any of those people who pop up in the comments every now and then and like to cry about carbon dioxide and such things. The garage door is ajar. Well, actually it's not, it's still very definitely a door, but it is open. I am not gassing myself in the back of this garage, and believe me, this place is more than well ventilated enough to be doing this sort of stuff, so don't worry about that. So these lamps, where do we get them from? Well, it depends on exactly what you're looking for, really. You can find them on eBay, both second hand and new. You'll find them on Amazon, you'll find them on flea markets, you will find them all over the place, antique fairs, shops and all of that. A quick note on pricing. These lamps, the 275 babies, you should not be paying more than £30, okay? If you have bought one and you've paid more than that, hang your head in shame. You are part of the problem. These are not antiques. Yes, they are old. They are not, though, antiques, and they are not more valuable because of their age. Their value is all in them working. If they do not work, what you've got yourself is a pretty paperweight. It is pointless. Never be tempted to pay more than about £30, particularly for an old one, because the company still exists. They are still producing the exact same lamps in the same way to this day, and you can get them in any colour you please, powder coated, all of that fancy stuff, just the same as this lamp, but they'll be about between 30, 35, 40 pounds, brand spanking new. Do not be tempted by the whole, oh, it's an antique nonsense. No, antiques are finer things that were invented for, you know, not practical things. Real antiques that have whole value with age don't tend to be practical things. Market stalls, old hammers, polish them up. It's an antique hammer. No, it's a hammer. A hammer is a blooming hammer. If it works, it's a hammer. If it doesn't work, it's utterly worthless. Yeah. So anybody who's like, oh, it's an antique, I'll pay la-di-da. Yeah, you're just driving the prices up, and you're just encouraging people to believe you can get silly money for these things, and you really shouldn't, because, like I say, you'll probably find you'll get them brand new for less than your average eBay idiot thinks that they should be selling them for. And I know I did touch on this briefly about the Tilly lamps, the paraffin pressure lamps and this, that and the other. You will see people selling them second hand, and they'll be asking 60, 70 quid for them, and you're gambling with a lot of money there, because if it's old and it's been used with the pressure lamp, if it's got a couple of things wrong with it, you're going to be investing the same amount back in it just to get it running. And again, you can still get those brand new. If you're not interested in the age, if you just want it to work, just get a new one. Save yourself a lot of time, effort and money when you realise that the second-hand one needs a bit of work. You've got to track parts down, but you paid over the odds for it in the first place. Don't be one of those people. If it's too expensive, scroll on. Scroll on. Do not buy it. It's the, I keep seeing memes all over the place at the moment about the price of eggs in the US. I don't know, but it seems like eggs have possibly gone up very heavily in price in America, and people are making all these funny memes about the missus saying, buy me something expensive, and he's giving her a box of eggs. I don't know what's going on economically over there. What I do know is if the price of something like eggs is going up so high, it's your own fault. Stop buying them. All of you together, just stop buying the things completely. They'll be giving them away. That's how a market or an economy runs, isn't it? Yeah? When you need something, we'll jack the price up. Don't buy it. Live without eggs for a few months. And then, you know, I'm waffling, but you get my point. The more you fall in for that trap, the more you get robbed. And I haven't paid more than about £25 for any of these. And I'm always quite fussy to make sure, before I do, check all the photos, make sure they're working. You can tell if they're going to work by the state they're in generally, because there isn't much that can go wrong with these little devils. Right, well, that's enough waffle. I don't want to over talk on this video, even though by the very nature of what we're doing, it is a bit of a talky video. Now, this one needs a wick. I've got a pile. You can get all the parts dirt cheap. These are genuine Feuerhand wicks. Like I say, the company still exists. You can get all the bits you need online without any bother. So he needs a new wick. We'll deal with that one a bit later on though, because there's another one over here I want to show you, because this is a common problem people get with these lamps, and then people don't really know what to do with them. So you can see that this one is flickering and flashing, and if you listen to it, you hear how it's coughing. Now that is a common problem, and it's caused by one of two things. First thing is your wick is too clogged, so it's not drawing the fuel fast enough. So what it's doing is drawing just enough to burn, and then it's simmering down, and as the flame calms down it draws a bit more up and goes whoop flick, whoop flick. This one though isn't doing that. Because I can hear this one coughing, what this one is doing is igniting paraffin vapor down the side of the wick tube, the wick slider. And I can actually see the flame flashing down the side. So if I open that up, turn that down so it's not smoking, and hold it there, you see that flame coughing out the side of the wick slider there. Now that happens usually when you've got a lot of dirt that's slipped down inside there, or you've started to get carbon down the wick tube. I'll show you. I'll pull the wick carrier out and I'll show you exactly what I mean. This is an annoying problem because not only does it constantly flicker, and when you're using them in the dark, all you can see is lights flashing and it drives you nuts, but also after a while it'll flash to the point where it'll blow itself out, which isn't any use. And it's very, very, very easy to sort out. So you're a bit sticky. I'll just, there we go. Right. Yeah, good long wick on it. Just pop the rest of the carcass out of the way, turn these down a little bit. Right, and so what I mean is, and I don't know if you guys can see it very easily, but you probably can't see it at all actually, but in there where the actual wick carrier is folded, because they're not sealed, they're not like soldered, it's just a line where the seam is, where they literally folded and just pressed onto each other, and you can it's dead hard to see it on the camera, I know, but if you've got one and you're looking at it, you will see there is just a little line running down it. Now the reason they flash is usually that carbon has developed on that little line, and what the carbon's then doing is wicking fuel out of the main wick chamber, and because all this gets very hot down there, when the fuel is soaked into that little carbon line, it will then evaporate, turn to vapor, and that's what's igniting and causing the flash, is that vapor. So what we need to do is get that carbon off, which isn't as difficult as it sounds. Yeah, now it's next to impossible to show you guys this on the camera because I just can't get it at the angle, but I can literally see a big browny black stain down there that is the #1 cause of this flashing problem. The wick otherwise looks in excellent condition. Aside from it is all rusty, where again this one has obviously been left stood somewhere with no fuel in it. That's a big no-no. Don't leave your lamps without fuel, you get rust issues in all your mechanism. Just for the fact though that I do have so many new wicks, I might actually change it out. Oh, it has actually torn in half and left a load in there, which shows you that the bottom looks great, but the top is otherwise in quite bad condition. We'll get that out and fix that in a minute. I'm just going to use a pair of pin nose pliers here and wiggle out the rest of this wick that's stuck in the carrier. Do be careful that you don't grab hold of the little cogwheels in there that do the wick turning and rip them out, because if you bend them up and stuff, you're going to have even more problem. Right, that is all of that out. I can see straight through that. So what I'm going to do is clean down in there. I'm going to use this little Dremel tool thing, because usually I wouldn't do anything quite that extreme as to use a big electric thing like that to get in there and clean it. But I cannot find a single one of my little teeny wire brushes. I have these little tiny, they're like toothbrushes but wire brushes, and they were particularly good for cleaning your spark plug gaps and things like that. And I can't seem to find them anywhere. I've obviously done that man thing where you tidy up, and then because you've tidied up you can't find nothing. But when we scrub that off down there where the line is that you'll see, I'm also going to clean across the top there as well. Always a good idea when you get the chance, or if you're putting a wick in it or anything like that, is get the top clean. Carbon sticks to all of that, and again it'll give you the same problem: poor quality burning, overburning, smokiness. It all really comes with carbon in there where you really don't want it. So there we go. You can see that the top all around the wick carrier is completely clean. I've been all around inside. Be gentle. It's very thin metal. You're not trying to kill it. Another good thing with these, just briefly on parts, as it does say on the bottom there, Germany 275, 276. Generally the 275 parts, especially like your wick carriers and stuff, they will, the windy things, they will fit pretty much all the Feuerhands anyway, so it's no problem getting bits. But it's all nice and crystal clean. And is that even the side with the fold? Nope, that is. You can see now, you see how it's all shiny in there, and you can just see that line where it's rolled around itself. That's where the carbon builds, that's where your flashing starts. So, and again, like I said on the last video, to anybody who thinks this is just boring nonsense, I apologise, but I have been asked now a few times questions on these lamps, how to restore them, how to make them work, and what to do with them. So, if you're not looking for a lamp, fine, fair enough, I understand. But for those of you that are, here we go. Now, getting wicks in the damn things. This is always a tricky part. They don't really want to go in. So trim off any fluff that you can. Make sure that they are as clean and as flat as they can possibly be before you start poking them in that tube. Now, is there a right way and a wrong way of this? Is there a top and a bottom? Which way should you go, from the bottom or the top? Honestly, I don't believe there's a right or particularly wrong way in there. It's whatever works and gets the damn thing in there for you. Now, if there are any absolute experts out there that are going to tell me, no, you've got to do it from here, fine, fair enough. I'm not an expert, I am an enthusiast. I usually try first to get it to go from the bottom. It's a bit closer to the actual windy pegs. That's it. And keep an eye out for any fluffy bits poking out, because they will just haunt you later on when you're trying to twist it in. It's a bit difficult trying to push the thing in and twist the little roller at the same time. When you do get it to engage on the little roller cogs, don't be tempted to just maul it, because what happens then is usually, instead of pulling it into the tube nice and neatly, what it'll do is it'll just pull threads out of it and bunch all your wick up and make a big mess. Oh, there we go. That is the easiest it's ever done, and you can see it has made the top a little bit fluffy. So now that we've got it in the carry tube, I'm going to drop it down to the fluffiness, and I'm just going to cut it flat against the top of that metal, literally as flat as you can get the thing. You might have to attack it from one side then the other. And again, any little fluffety bits that you just can't quite get with your scissors, just burn them off with a lighter. Fluffy bit, and there we go. Now leave that as flat in that tube as you can possibly get it. That's ready to go back into the lamp itself now. On that note, guys, somebody the other day did ask me about dismantling these things and this, that and the other. They really don't dismantle all that far down. A couple of other maintenance points now. To get your glass out, pull that up and it will go one way or the other. In this case it's that way. Now that is not a handle. That is not for hanging lamps up with. That is your glass release. That's why that is there. So you can release your glass. If you was to hang that off something with that, worst case scenario is it might open the lamp and let the glass fold over. That's quite unlikely, to be honest with you. What's more likely to happen is you're just going to end up with a giant black burn mark above whatever you've hung it on, because it will be really hot. That is not for hanging the lamp up. Taking the globes out. These arms that go around the glass, they are not armour. They are a spring to hold the globe in place. They might secondarily work quite well as armour, but they're not. Okay, push them both down and that will just let the globe go and it comes out. Now then, something that is crucially important if you've bought a second-hand lamp. So we are going to get a little extra nerdy on these things for a moment, because this is crucial. If you have bought a second-hand lamp, and I can't really tip this one about that much because it is full of juice, so you'll just have to bear with me a minute on this. So when you're looking there, you can see that there, give me a pokey stick so I can show you. You can see that there is a space above the actual fuel tank there. So you've got this top piece that's like a facade, and then you've got this piece here that is just an open airspace. This is very, very, very important. You need this airspace, and it's exactly why when you buy cheapo copies, quite often they don't work very well at all, and that's because they haven't noticed this, they haven't observed it. There are two main types of hurricane lamp, a hot blast and a cold blast. Cold blast being slightly more modern and much, much more efficient. These ones are cold blast lamps, and the way that it's working is, unfortunately I can't tilt it to show you because it's full of fuel. Under here, if you have got one that's got no fuel in it, tip her upside down and have a look, and you will notice that these arms are open to under there. And the way that it works and why it's called a cold blast lamp is it's sucking cold air under there, down those arms, into this space under the fuel, above the fuel tank, and then up through this mechanism. That cold air then is blown into a shape by these curvy shapes on the cowl, and that's what causes your flame to fan out like that. Yeah, without all that it'll just burn slowly like a candle or something. And the reason I'm telling you all of this is because if you've bought one second hand and it's quite old, make sure that this area is clear. Make sure those holes in the arms under there are clear and clean, and the same for up there. You might need a pipe cleaner or something to excuse me, you might need a pipe cleaner or something to get in there and clean them out. Your number one culprits are spiders making nests in the arms while the lamp's not in use. Anything that slows this airflow down the arms and over the tank is going to slow the function of the lamp down. So keep all of that nice and clear. And again, this is the reason why you can buy certain really cheap copies and they do not function well at all. It's because when whoever has reverse engineered them, they haven't paid enough attention to the fact that these were hollow and allowing air to move. And it is also part of the system that makes them windproof, is because instead of the air that they need to burn coming directly onto the flame, it's going through this whole system here, which slows it down. Well, it doesn't slow it down, but it stops it from gusting as the wind does. It keeps it more of a constant flow, so it makes them the windproof little things that they are. Right then, let's get this little puppy back in. Shiny new wick. For the price of the wicks, you'll probably get 10 for like 10-12 quid. They're not expensive, so if you've got like a dirty wick like that one was split and all of that, and it's obviously rotten because it's just coming apart in my hand, it shouldn't do that. They're very strong cotton things, you shouldn't be able to just rip it with your fingers. That one had obviously gone off, even though the bottom of it looks in perfect condition. Would I reuse that? No. For the price of them, it's just not worth it. You're better off, given as your wick is your #1 thing, and it's like reusing an old wick. It would be the equivalent of reusing old batteries in your torch. It's just a recipe for failure. It's not going to help you. So for the price of them, when you first get it, there's no harm putting a shiny new wick in it. Not to say that you will get them sometimes that have literally never been used. The wick is perfect. Don't bother changing that. That's fine. If it's completely free moving, you can see that it's in beautiful condition. It's fine. Don't worry. But you see what I'm saying. When it comes out looking like something's wiped its backside with it and splitting, nah, try and get rid of it. So this, just very much like a bayonet cap light bulb, it'll just sit flat on the top of the lamp, and you'll twist it, and 2 little flanges slide underneath 2 other little stepped up flanges, I guess. Now I'm going to give that a few moments to let it soak up that fuel. As always, put the glass back in, pushing those little springy dings so I don't scratch the glass up. Soaking in. You can see this one that seems to have stopped doing it now because I'm talking about it. But this one was flickering, but it was flickering incredibly fast and gently, but very, very fast flicker. When they're running right, they shouldn't flicker at all. They should be just super calm, super stable. And a couple of these I actually I got the other day. I ordered them off eBay and they came the other day. That's why that one wants trimming up and dealing with. It's not running right. It's not getting the right spread pattern on the wick. These are all problems where people have burned them in a slightly incorrect way. Generally, by leaving them on that low flame and letting them burn themselves till they behave is a perfectly fine way of dealing. They'll sort themselves out. If you're impatient like me, you can retrim it, reburn it, and set that flame width to, you know, then and there. It's entirely up to you. These, to be honest with you, the 275s of mine, they get used constantly, so they're always having a twiddle and a twinkle. That one's not too bad. It's burning one side a bit more than the other. Again, these are all wick issues, but anyway, this one with its fast flashing, that is a sign of it's either going to be, again, carbon around the top of the wick carrier, not the side of the wick carrier, or the other favourite when they pop in really quickly is liquid ingress in your fuel. Water vapour has got into your tank and that's evaporating as it's burning, and the steam is causing it to go pop, 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 very, very quickly. Simply solution to that, dump the fuel, put fresh fuel in it. It's the easiest way to deal with that. The problem is if you do get amounts of water in there, obviously oil sits on top of water and the oil will sit above it. The water will be floating around the bottom of the tank. Seems like a safe place for it to be, out of the way. Trouble is, when that does eventually find the wick bottom, it will soak into the wick and make its way up along with everything else. So the easiest thing to do, dump that fuel out, put fresh fuel in it. I'll deal with him another time. Well, later on. I'm not going to do it on this video. But anyway, this chappie's had about 5-7 minutes now to sit there and soak up that paraffin. Let's light the devil and see if we have cured the problem. So as always, keep the wick super duper low, and you're going to let that warm up. There we go, and you can see straight off the cuff it's not a level flame, and that's what I mean about how difficult it really is to trim that wick in the perfect way to get it to give you that perfectly level flame. Far better is to just leave them burning really low and let them fix themselves. Cleaning your globes, I use all manner of things: a cloth with WD-40, an antibacterial wipe, a baby wipe, but for me, by far, if you've got a real smoky globe, the best thing to do with it is warm water, a lot of fairy liquid, and a toothbrush. Cleans it right up. Obviously, out there in the wild, whatever you've got, a bit of a damp cloth, keep rubbing at it. The actual fuel itself, a cloth with a bit of the paraffin soaked into it, cleans pretty effectively as well. WD-40 works great, but obviously then the first time you light it, it's going to smell a bit for a while. If you're outdoors, doesn't really matter. If you love the smell of WD-40, it doesn't really matter, but it will. So that, leave it running for just a little while. But already you can see it's quit that coughing now. It's not doing that anymore, which tells you straight off the bat that is the problem. It is just carbon down that wick tube. Sometimes it might not be carbon. Sometimes it is that seam is not quite closed tight enough as it should be. It's been bent by something in some way. If you're really skilled, you might be able to just bend it back to shape so that they do touch each other again, or if you are really good, you might be able to solder it back together. Really though, if that little line is opened up, which is usually by damage, somebody's been poking something in there, they don't just do it on their own, something's happened to it that shouldn't have done. But if that line has opened up on that seam, really it's time to replace the wick winder. There's not a lot you can really do about that. I have managed to bring some back to life and reshape them, but it's not easy. And there we go. That one is now a perfectly stable and not coughing little lamp, and it will sit there for an hour or so and just burn its wick into the best shape that it can. Beautiful. So really, on the line of maintenance on these things, it's very, very simple. Keep the carbon off them, keep them clean, and you know, keep spider webs out of them, keep the dust out of them. It's really simple. And when you're storing them, here's old number one again. Right? So we'll just turn that up. Right, on the guise of, yeah, you could probably, number one lamp could probably do with a new wick as well. Actually, that's a bit stiff, and I don't think I've ever changed your wick, so I think I might have a bit of a re-wicking day. But on the line of how bright can they be, how much can you turn that wick up to get the light you want, it is really very, very simple. You can turn it up until the point where it starts to smoke, and then just tweak it back down again until that smoking stops, and that is your limit, unless you like a smoky house and a smoky globe. As soon as they do start smoking, back them off a little bit. That's the peak. That's all you're getting. Now that's going to be different lamp for lamp depending on how well the wick is shaped, how well the wick is burning and trimmed. So just so you know. Any hoots, we've got that other one that wants a wick. I'm not going to bother doing that for the video because I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm just going to clean it all up, re-wick it, and put it back together. You've already seen that. But that is my reasoning behind why the 275 Baby is my favourite and a jolly good old bit of maintenance for those of you that are interested. And as I have mentioned a couple of times, don't forget, if you are going to hang this thing up for months and not touch it, leave it full of fuel. That way all your wick mechanism and everything won't rust or go all horrible and sticky and stop working by the time you come back to it. If it's dry and you start getting rust developing down the wick tube, it grips the wick like holy hell, won't let it go, ruins it. As you can see on that one, it is just rust from the wick carrier from being left empty. That's what's done that. Leave them full of fuel so that stays nice and wet and oily. It will keep itself all nicely lubed up and it won't go funny and rust. But that is all I need to waffle about the 275 Baby, my favoritist lamp. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Like and subscribe and all of that whatnot. And please, what was I saying? No, my usual spiel. Get out, bushcraft, have fun, be happy, be safe. Collect some paraffin lamps and get them back into working order. And please, if you do see this sort of thing for sale and people are asking more than about £30, just laugh, move on, and let some other idiot get ripped off with it. They are not that valuable. But guys, thank you very much, and I shall catch you on the next one. That is Bosun Dan out, and off through the invisible doorway.